to help individuals become the best versions of themselves. Her quest for holistic development has taken her across the globe into the best institutions such as the Harvard, the Stanford, to gather and distill the nectar of knowledge which she synthesizes into the sweet honey of wisdom to share with others. Anjum ma'am has won innumerable awards, accolades, and recognition not just individually, but for her institutions as well. Anjum ma'am has been recognized in many platforms for her exemplary contributions to the field of education, including Femina World Women in Leadership Award, Brainfeed Lifetime Achievement Award, the Best Educationist in Hyderabad Award by the Times. These are just a few to name. Having conferred as an honorary doctorate in education by the National American University and National Institute of Education and Research, she is the author of ABC of Brain Compatible Learning and a TEDx speaker. Dr. Anjum BabuKhan is an award-winning educationist who empowers people, trains people. She provides key insights for educators, parents, and lifelong learners to navigate education in the 21st century. I welcome our pedagogy advisor to please come up on the stage. A huge round of applause, dear parents. She has taken out her valuable time, and this is going to be a parenting session. Please mind you, this is nothing related to our school pedagogy or academics or anything. It's just for you parents to be good parents, and effective parenting techniques can be imbibed here today so that you can become a good parent in this 21st century. I welcome Dr. Anjum BabuKhan. I also request the heads of all the other branches to please come up on the stage. And I request Kausal ma'am to give a bouquet to our pedagogy advisor, Dr. Anjum BabuKhan. As we have shortage of time because the masjid is very close to us, we would like to start the program. I welcome Mrs. Anjum BabuKhan to please start.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me? Am I audible? No. In the back? Okay, now I think I am. We can reduce it a little bit. Assalamu alaikum. May God bestow peace and blessings upon all of you, dear parents, our partners in education. A very good afternoon. So I stand before you here not only as a pedagogy advisor, but long back when my children were very young, I did a certification in a program called STEP, Systematic Training for Effective Parenting. And I had gone to Florida to get certified as a parenting facilitator. I was I was a young mom, and I was very anxious, and I wanted to do the best possible that I could for my children. And I also wanted to do that for other parents that I would be working with in education. And I, along with two other counselors, cousins, Miss Arshia Ayub and Miss Najma Sanai, who are trained counselors. The three of us used to put up these workshops in Hyderabad for a number of years. But I think my last one was 2007, and I'm doing it now in front of all of you. So let's get started. We have a lot to cover. But before I begin, I would like a little bit of sense of what the audience is thinking. So I have two questions for you. I'd like to ask you, what are three things that I want for my child? Okay? What are three things I want for my child? And then what are three goals of parenting that I have for myself. So let me give you an example, okay? For me, it was very important that my children have taqwa. And I wanted my children to be very God conscious, right? Because once we have that GPS, the God positioning system, we know exactly how to be with other people, elders, young, how we need to earn a halal kamai, etiquette, how we eat, sleep, make a living. Everything kind of falls under that God consciousness. So that was one goal that I had for my children. One goal that I had as a parenting, as a parent for myself is that I wanted to be, you know, I didn't want to lose my temper. I never wanted to, you know, use any type of negative techniques in my parenting. So I wanted to be as positive of a parent as I could. So I would like you now to just turn to the person sitting next to you, either side, and spouses, if you're there together, you can have a different partner for 1 minute. I'm going to let 1 minute go by. Can you put the timer on for 1 minute? I want you to have a conversation with your neighbor. Talk about 3 things that you want for your children. Discuss. Come on. People should not be looking at me. You should be looking at your neighbor now. For 1 minute, discuss 3 things that you want for your child. Or it can be 3 parenting goals that you have for yourself. And I'm going to ask you for answers. Okay? Please discuss. Turn to each other, parents. I don't see parents talking to each other. Ladies, please turn to each other and talk. Okay? If you put in your thoughts and your words become actions, they become a reality. We co-create the human condition by communication. So let's think about what thoughts we have, what's in our heart, what's in our mind. Communicate it. Speak it out. Speak it out. Please, discuss, discuss. Everyone sitting quietly, please discuss. I might randomly call on you. Let me know when 1 minute is over. Ho gaya? Okay, let's have some answers. I'm going to ask this section over here. Can you put the screen back up, please? Screen back up. My screen. Majid, can I have my screen back up? Yeah. What are 3 things you want for your children? Please speak up. If you want your children to be confident and vocal and articulate, we'd like to hear from the moms and the dads also. Yes. Somebody, yes, thank you. Thank you for volunteering. Okay, heads, if you can just maybe pass the mic around. Yes.
Assalamu alaikum wa
Walaikum
rahmatullahi
assalam.
wa barakatuh. Firstly, my first goal will be taqwa. And the second thing, I just want to concentrate on their health. As well, I want that even they should do the same. They should take care about their health.
Okay.
And the third thing is, they should be something in their life. They should help out others in any form, like a good doctor or a good teacher.
Okay.
Whatever they want to choose, I just want that they must be best of that.
Okay.
Best version.
So if I can rephrase that, you want your children to be God conscious,
Yes.
healthy, and helpful.
Helpful, right?
Helpful. All right. Let's give her a big round of applause. Okay.
Thank you.
This section now, I'd like a volunteer to say something. Come on. Let's hear from maybe some men or ladies. That's fine. We have a volunteer. Thank you. Yes. 3 things you want for your children.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
As Muslims, we all have our first goal as taqwa only. And I have been working on that because along with the school, my child goes to the madrasa also. He does the takreer and all. But one thing lags behind is he doesn't, not only one child, but they don't have a responsibility and they don't get that, what we can say, whatever parents and elders are doing, that is for them. क्या बोलते हैं हिंदी कैन से एहसास नहीं है कि पेरेंट्स इतनी मेहनत करके उन लोगों के लिए सब चीज कर रहे वो एहसास दिलाना बहुत ज्यादा
So basically you're looking for empathy, if I can rephrase that.
Yeah.
You want your children to be empathetic. You want them to understand what the whole support system of the family is doing for them. You want them to have
they
an
should know
empathy and an
behind the
ehsas
scenes what is
for
there
that.
behind the scenes, whatever.
So we had healthy, helpful, God-conscious,
Empathy.
responsible, and empathetic. Okay, very good. Let's have somebody from the middle section. I'd like to hear from the men back there. Can we give the mic? Let's send the mic back. One of the teachers, please. Yes, right behind you, ma'am. Right behind you, ma'am. Yeah. There you go. Please send it to one of the men. Let's hear from the men. Men are in our community, right, in our faith, they're supposed to be the kafil of the family, the caretaker, the leader of the family.
Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa
Wa
barakatuh.
alaikum assalam.
Deen, dunya and akhirah. I want to give all these three to my children.
Okay, and what is the goal that you have for the children? So if you were to look at the screen, 3 things you want for your children. So you want them to have the deen and you want them to have the... Can you be specific with maybe characteristics?
Yes.
Like we had healthy, helpful, responsible, empathetic. What would you like them to have?
I want them to succeed in deen.
So faithful.
So, deen,
You want them to be
faithful, yes.
faithful. Okay.
Faithful and dunya, progress in the world.
Okay, progressive. I want my
Progressive.
children to be faithful and progressive.
Yes. And make their akhirah.
Okay?
That's
Okay,
it.
so faith comes under that. Faith covers deen and dunya.
Dunya.
Okay. Very good. And do you have any parenting goals for yourself as a parent? What type of parent would you like to be?
A good parent, a practicing parent,
Okay?
and an example for the kids, for my kids.
Okay, so you want to walk the talk, right?
Yes.
You want to be an example, a role model for your
Yes,
children.
yeah.
Very good. Very good. Thank you, everybody. Give him a round of applause. We have 2 more sections and then we'll move on. But it's very nice to hear from the audience. Okay, this section right here. This section right here. Any volunteers from this section? This section, please. Yes.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
My parenting goal would be I would like my child to think ki my mother is there or my father is there, whatever happens. You know, they should be that, oh my God, no, what if, my parents come to know about this? They should not be scared. They should be confident that we are always behind them. That's my parenting goal.
That his parents have their back always.
Always.
That the parents are reliable.
Of course.
That your parenting goal is that your child should feel that you're always reliable. Good or bad, you're going to be there for them.
We're going to be for them.
Okay.
And I would like my child, like every other parent said over here, that they should succeed in this world, and in the akhirat. And they go, whatever profession they go in, they should excel in that. They're going to do here as well. And then in the akhirah also, there will be ajr for them, if they're very true to their profession and to themselves.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
So to be true, to have integrity in their profession, be professional, right? We had healthy, and we had respectful, empathetic, helpful, right? So we're getting some really good. Okay, last, from this section over here. Walk in the front, please. Just walk towards the front. Can I have a volunteer over here? Oh, we have a couple. Okay. We only had 1 man volunteer, by the way, so far. I'd like to hear from 1 more man before we continue. Yes.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
As a mother, my first goal would be I want my children to be confident and I want them to be independent. Like, I don't want them to be dependent on others for anything, be it like taking decision or ownership of their everything.
Okay.
Because I myself had been like that only, means
So
independent in all
as
the
a mother,
aspects.
I want my child to be independent, take ownership and authority of whatever decisions they're making in life. Excellent.
Yep.
Excellent.
They should have that sense, like whatever I'm doing, I'm responsible. So take
Yes.
the ownership.
To be conscientious and responsible. Very good. Thank you so much. And any parenting goal that you have for yourself, ma'am?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi barakatuh. I want to follow my children that all the sunnahs. It's cover everything to live our life. That's it. Jazakallah khair.
Okay, thank you. Did you have to say anything as a parenting goal for yourself? That's what you wish for your child, but what
If
about
they
for
follow
yourself
sunnah,
as a parent?
As a parent, I want to follow the sunnah. If they follow sunnah, everything they learn to live life year and after, they'll get everything,
Inshallah.
inshallah.
Did you have a parenting goal for yourself? Did you want to share, add to that? Yes.
Yeah, definitely, because I being a working mother, so I...
What do you do, ma'am?
I'm an IT profession.
Oh, wonderful.
So I give very little time to my children. So, and they have learned to do things on their own. So that's the thing I have seen in them. And I would like to motivate them, like they should also be like that in their own life, choose their own careers and be independent. So that's it, what I want.
Okay, okay. Career-wise and independent. And one male, please. Yes, thank you. Thank you, sir, for...
Assalamu alaikum
Walaikum
warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
assalam.
Yeah, I expect my child to be, I mean, first of all, it will be taqwa. And second, he should have the openness to learn.
Okay.
Be it anything else. It could be deen, it could be dunya. And that character should be there in himself. And
So you want your child to be a lifelong learner.
Yes.
I'm a lifelong learner.
Yes,
Great.
yes, yes. And I want him to, I want him to free from the fear of failure.
Very good. Okay, so to have courage, I want my child to have courage and be fearless, right?
yeah.
To taking on challenges.
Yeah.
I want him to be fearless in the face of any challenge.
Yeah.
Right? Wonderful. Those are wonderful qualities. Thank you so much, everyone. Everyone, give all the parents who volunteered a big round of applause. Okay, so now let's continue with this. I want you to keep in mind what you heard. Do you agree with that? Maybe you have some of your own goals that you have as a parent for yourself and what things you want for your children. Oops, what happened to the screen? Okay, so it would be nice when you go home today. I don't know if any of you are going to take notes, but it would be helpful to take notes. But what type of parenting goal? Date it. Put today's date, and then look back after 1 month. Are you following what your parenting goals are? Reflect. Because this is not really work that you're doing to children as much as you're going to be doing for yourself as a parent. Okay? And then look at it again in 6 months. Look at it from a year. So keep reviewing your goals. And when you write down, there's a great power in writing things down. I myself, I think I have maybe about 20, 25 journals over the years. I write, and then when I go back after some time, I look at, oh wow, this actually happened. This came true. This goal came true. And I'll write a goal for 1 month, and then for 2 months, and then for 6 months, for 1 year, 5 years. And alhamdulillah, when you write it down, that intentionality makes it, come true eventually. So I would like to, as a parent, raise a child who is, and then fill in the blanks. Can you all do that? Maybe you can take a screenshot, like a picture with your phones, and remember to do that, and put it somewhere where you can see it. Maybe an almar or a cabinet that you open up every day, and you see it. I want to raise a child with what are the qualities. As a parent, I want to be this type of parent, okay? And then just keep reflecting on it and do dua, right? And inshallah, that will come true. So before we go further, what I'd like to do is I'd like to give you a synopsis of 3 parenting styles, okay? And I want you to reflect and ask yourself, which type of parent am I among these three styles? So the first style is an authoritarian type of parent, okay? And what that means is an authoritarian parent, he orders or she orders and she demands. It's a very demanding and ordering type of parenting. They use fear as a motivating factor. They will even punish by yelling, spanking, hitting. They're very critical of their children. They will verbally label the children as good or as bad, kuch bhi nahi karta, whatever, the labeling, right? The children of authoritarian parents, what happens to them? When we take a look at the psychological kind of currents of what happens, they struggle to win the parents' favor, love, and affection. They will also, if there's more than one child in the family, they will also compete with their siblings for attention. So a little bit of sibling rivalry can happen, especially if you label one as good or one as bad, or ye wali padti hai, ye padte hi nahi hai, right? It creates a lot of sibling rivalry that's not healthy for a harmonious family. And because the parents are demanding submission and complete obedience, the children, as a result, don't learn on how to make decisions for themselves and good choices for themselves. And I think one of the parents in this section said that they want them to be able to make good choices. These type of children who have parents that are very strict, demanding, ordering, and authoritarian, these are the children that can succumb to peer pressure. That's what negative peer pressure, okay? So if you want them to have good sohbat and not be influenced, we can sometimes control who they interact with, but when they don't know how to make decisions for themselves, they can succumb to negative peer pressure. And then, since they have many, many limits and very few freedoms, these are the type of children that will rebel. They might have two lives, one life inside the home and another life outside the home, because they need a little bit of agency and freedom to make their own, because they're not getting that within the home because it's such a constrictive environment. Next type of parenting is a permissive parent, a very laissez-faire parent. Haan, kuch jo karna hai, kar lo, like, right? They're kind of afraid to discipline. They don't want to discipline. They're unable to enforce any type of limits or boundaries. They show a lot of kind of undue love and affection. Bigaad dete bachon ko. That's what we say in Urdu, right? Bigaad dete. And they may give a lot of love and affection, but they're not giving them a sense of safety and protection, and I'll show you why. Children from permissive parents, they're usually labeled as spoiled brats, right? Bigrevi aulad, very spoiled. Because they've been raised without rules and limits, what happens, rules and limits are also very important to follow as a social, as a person, a member of society, right? No society can function without rules and limits. And because they're not used to any rules and limits, then they will exercise the same type of indiscipline outside. And they won't be able to successfully function in a society that has rules and laws. They will be the ones that are bending the rules, bending the laws, doing things in their own way because they're used to getting their own way all the time in their home. And we don't want, almost all the parents here, they said that they wanted their children to be God conscious, right? Following their faith, following the Sunnah. And part of Sharia is to also follow the law of the land that is in Sharia. So whatever land you're living in, you have to follow the law of the land, which means even traffic, how you ride your vehicle in traffic, obeying traffic rules and other rules, civil rules, that also comes a part of our faith. So when they don't have that discipline of limits in their own home, they are the ones that are going to break the law and break all these rules and give the ummah a bad name. Because, that's how they're going to be perceived, as indisciplined. Okay, the third type of parenting. Okay, this is the third type of parenting, and I want you all to pay very particular attention. You may fall under any of the three. You'll have to do your own introspection for that. In the third type of parenting, it's called the democratic style of parenting. Here, the parents will discipline the children without ordering or using fear as a motivating factor. That the fear of punishment is not there, right? They will motivate the children to cooperate. They're going to be giving freedom, but they'll give the freedom within limits because they're offering choices to the children for them to exert their own sense of agency. And effective communication forms the foundation of the style. And unfortunately, in our community, we have a lot of communication gaps in families, in Muslim families. Particularly, we need to really work on effective communication. That's the bedrock foundation of all human relationships. And usually, most problems stem from a communication problem. When you have a democratic style of parenting, this helps the children become self-responsible, self-regulated, and self-reliant. The children in these families, they become skilled at making good choices, and it also helps them build their confidence and their self-esteem. The gentleman here, you said that you want your children to be fearless, right? And to take up challenges and to make good decisions. So a democratic style of parenting will offer that opportunity. Now, in the subsequent slides, I'm going to show you how you can do that at home, and I'm going to give you some examples. So stay tuned. I want to just share this butterfly story. Maybe a lot of you may have heard it, but I came across it as a young mom, and I thought it was very beautiful. One day, a man sees a butterfly trying very hard to come out of her cocoon. He stays and observes what the butterfly is trying to do. When he sees this butterfly not able to come out of the cocoon easily, he feels sad for the butterfly and decides to help her somehow. Therefore, he takes a pair of scissors and he cuts the cocoon so that the butterfly can be free. But as soon as he does that, as soon as he cuts the cocoon, the butterfly came out crawling. He was sure that he didn't hurt the butterfly with the scissors, but he didn't realize that when the butterfly tries to come out of its cocoon, its body in the cocoon has a fluid that it makes. And when the butterfly struggles within the cocoon, the fluid gets pushed back into the body and into the wings. And it's that struggle and that fluid within the cocoon that gives the butterfly the ability to fly. Without that struggle, the butterfly will just be crawling as an injured insect. So my dear parents, we want to give our children the safety net, but we also need to give them some limits. And sometimes some decisions are tough. Like I remember my parents were very conservative when I was growing up in the United States. And I was the firstborn, and they were immigrants who immigrated from Hyderabad to the US. And they were just scared of the society at large, and they wanted to protect me, and I had a lot of limits. And though I may not have liked it at that time, in retrospect, they saved me. They protected me from maybe some bad influences that could have happened when I was not mature enough, right? So sometimes a little bit of struggle is okay. And that's what happens with permissive parenting, right? The second parenting that was there, they don't want to give any limits. They feel it's uncomfortable. Kar lene do. And then that's also not good for the children. And when they're restrictive and they're too restrictive, that's also not good for the children. The children are going to rebel or succumb to negative peer pressure, like I said. So the best way is to have that clear, open communication. These are the limits, right? These are the boundaries, or this is the standard. And within that, you have choices that we will allow you to make. Okay, so I covered the 3 types of parenting styles, and before we go on, I'd like to just give a very quick overview of the different stages of development in children. So how many of you have more than one child? Okay, many of you. Okay, so your children are going to fall somewhere in this thing. I'm a student of psychology, so this is one of my very go-to psychologists that I talk about in my teacher training as well, and it's very important for parents. And why I share what's happening in these ages and stages is that the ripples that are happening today in these stages of development within your homes, that's going to create waves tomorrow. Because the type of environment you're setting up in the home, ghar ka mahol jo hai, and tarbiyat jo hai, that's going to create waves tomorrow. So though they may not seem like a big deal today, it is going to make an impact later on in their adult life. So this is the ages and stages of human development by Erik Erikson. It's the psychosocial theory. And these different stages of development are defined in the way of how that child, that baby, that toddler, the child, the adult, is interacting with its social environment, okay? And as a result of that, what is the attitude that that child develops for life, kind of? It sets that child on a certain trajectory of life, okay? So let's start with birth. Baby to 1.5 years old, about 18 months, okay? In this stage, it's really, the child cannot really do anything for themselves, and they are at the mercy of whatever treatment they're going to be getting by the caregivers, right? So their basic trust of the world. Can I trust the world around me? Am I going to be fed? Am I going to be looked after? Is my cry going to be answered? Am I going to be held when I need some comfort, right? So this stage is called trust versus mistrust. The type of security that you can give your child, don't think that it's not a big deal. It is a big deal. That's the type of feeling of security that that child feels. I think one parent says that my children should feel that I am reliable, that me and my husband are there for them no matter what, right? So it starts at a very young age. Contact and touch are very important at this age, right? And there's studies done with babies that were abandoned and left on doorsteps, and they didn't have anybody holding them and touching them, and they have developmental delays. So, you know, even Rasulullah Sallam, he said, you know, hug your children, kiss your children, you know? I think one of the men in that time said, oh, I don't kiss or hug my children. And he said, and he showed his dislike of that. He said that I do that. I give affection to my children. So this is all very important. And at this age, it's I am what I'm given, right? Next is 1.5 years to 3 years. Here, they start the little bit of walking and crawling and talking and exploring, right? So they're now able to exert some will. So this statement is, I am what I will. They're exerting their will upon the world around them, right? And the child wants to try to make some independent decisions. There's motor development, verbalization. They're able to maybe even get a little bit of self-control. They might start potty training around this time, things like that. And this stage is autonomy versus doubt. So if you want to make your children independent, it starts as early as this stage, 1.5 to 3 years old. They want to feel that sense of autonomy. Maybe you can lay out, you know, 3 different dresses for your daughter and say, which one would you like to choose? Give her that choice. Give her that autonomy. Oh, I want the purple one, mama. You know, give that choice. Like you're setting that limit of 3 dresses that you have to choose from this, but give them that choice. And when the child is hearing, no, don't touch that, don't go there, no, 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 yeah, whatever, nay, 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 then they feel a sense of doubt because they have this natural will within them and they're constantly being told no, nahi, nahi karo, like, you know, and then they get doubtful of their own self, okay? So if you want them to be independent and autonomous and have that will and agency, it starts again at this age. Next is the 3 to 6 years old age. I am what I can imagine I will be, right? And this is the initiative versus guilt stage, 3 to 6 years old. This is the age where a lot of our children in India, they start school. They start their nursery and LKG. And this is also a beautiful stage because it's the age of imagination. They start imagination and make-believe. They'll have some imaginary friends and they'll play with their dolls, or, you know, it's a lovely, enchanting stage that will disappear by age 7. So enjoy it while it lasts. So storytelling, they love all that stuff. The child starts to explore both their social and physical environment, and they develop a sense of direction. This is also the stage where you establish routines and rhythms, right? This is the time we eat. This is the time we sleep. This is the time we get up. This is the time we take our nap, right? All those daily rhythms. This is the time we pray together as a family. So a lot of routines and rhythms are established at this stage. And the children will want that nurturing support and involvement, remember, right? So they have that natural initiative within them, but if you don't give them that sense of choice, again, they're going to feel a little bit of guilt because it's natural, it's khudrati, right? They want to exert that. And if it's no, 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 or not given any choice, then they feel a little bit of guilt about this, you know, natural initiative that they have. Stage 4, now this is the age of their primary schooling, right? So 6 to 12 years old, probably you can say class 1 to class 5. The child is, the statement is, I am what I learn, right? The child will feel competent working with others, learning new skills at this age. They'll gain confidence, and this is the start of them learning his or her potential. The whole potential of what can I do? I can ride a bike. I can rollerblade. I can swim. I can do multiplications table. I can divide. I can do fractions, right? So whether it's academic or non-academic skills, this is the age where that is unleashed. Okay, and this stage is called industry versus inferiority. When they can accomplish a task, for example, all their children are able to ride a bike, but they're struggling, they'll feel a sense of inferiority if they can't have that competence. So at this stage, dear parents, it's very important for you to help the children gain a varied sense of competency with different skill sets, right? That I can do this. They're going to feel a sense of industry and competence. And, you know, that's our tagline also, cultivating competence. And for more than 25 years, Springfields, we have been doing this with our pioneering methodology of multiple intelligence. So it's not just your verbal linguistic intelligence or your logical mathematical intelligence limited to academics, but we're introducing them to everything. We're introducing them to visual spatial intelligence through the arts, through performances, right? In sports day, in our cultural programs, you're introducing them to musical rhythmic and interpersonal, how to be with other people, how to be a good team player, teamwork, coordination, choreography. They have to do it with other people, right? Naturalistic intelligence, bodily kinesthetic intelligence, learning how to skate, learning how to play a sport, being a part of a team. So these are all the different competencies that your child is exposed to in this foundational time at school, in their primary years. And whatever you supplement at home. Some of you, how many of you take your children for extracurricular activities after school? Can you raise your hand? Does anybody go? Yes, what does your child do? You can just shout out. What is it? Cycling, okay. Parks, okay? Okay. Any curricular activity like gymnastics or a sport or a hobby? Yes. Cricket? Okay, cricket. Okay, yes. Swimming. Karate. Okay, very good. Okay? So you're extending their sense of competency outside. Okay, now this is the tween and teen years, 12 to late teens, okay? This is the stage where the children are thinking who I am, right? And for them at this stage, now the peers become very important. It's the reflection of what their friends say. Oh, wow, you're very organized. I love how you coordinate everything. Maybe a girlfriend will tell her friend, you know, her classmate. And they're like, oh, really? I am? Wow, you know? So that peer reflection becomes very important. Maybe same age cousins or friends and classmates. So they give a more importance to peers here. And then this is also a very trying stage because they're being kind of pressurized to make decisions about the future. What career they're going to go into? Are they going to continue with math and physics and chemistry? Do they really want to do medicine? Do they want to do something else, right? So this is a stage where there's a lot of decision making, confidence building is very important, and peers. So who their peers are at this stage is also going to be very, very critical to their development. Okay, and then these are other stages that I'm not going to talk about very much in detail because this is after school, but maybe some of you are in this stage. If you're a very, very young parent, you know, you're in stage 4, intimacy versus isolation. You know, find a life partner and you know, make a life with them. Later on in the next stage is generativity versus self-absorption, which is your middle adulthood. And that's where you're interested in establishing and guiding the next generation. And that's kind of the stage where we're at. We're guiding the next generation. Then the next stage is integrity versus despair in our late adulthood. And that's really kind of looking back after you're done with all your responsibilities. And do you have a sense of integrity, like you lived your life a good way, you did everything that you wanted to do, you don't have any regrets, you know? You fulfilled your responsibilities, or do you have a sense of despair or regret, you know? And that's how you kind of look at life in general. So that's all from Erik Erikson. And quickly, the next few slides is what is the wisdom that you can draw? I'm a human development you know, expert. So it was very important to include this aspect of human development in the parenting workshop. But what can we draw from Erikson's psychosocial theory? As a parent, we need to remember that children are always trying to maintain a positive self-concept about themselves. They always want to feel okay. And even as adults, we do that, right? We don't want to look bad, right? Somebody's coming over, we want the house to be neat. We want our clothes, you know, to be put away, right? We want to always set a good impression. We don't want them to think that we're disorganized in our home, right? We want to show our salikha and our hospitality and all that. So children are also always trying to maintain a positive self-image about themselves. And it's very important that parents and the schools, they keep helping them build that self-esteem. Oops. Children like to view themselves as capable and valuable. And again, these are very important messages that you need to give at home, that yes, I believe you can do this. I know you are capable. I know you're a valuable member of the family, in whatever other words like language that you would use, but that's basically the gist of it. And that's very important no matter what stage and age that they're at. Parent evaluation plays a major, major role in their development of their self-esteem and their self-concept of the child, right? Your belief in them, the belief that, yes, I believe you can do this, you know? And I'm rooting for you. I'm noticing your effort. I'm noticing the time that you're putting into doing this, you know? Encourage effort. Now that's the big differentiator that we're going to talk about a little bit later, is what you need to do as a parent. You need to encourage, not praise. You have to look at the baby steps, not the end product after they've reached that goal or whether or not they reach that goal. All the steps that they're taking towards the goal, that is what you need to recognize as a parent. And a hurried child never has an opportunity to nurture his or her capabilities. And remember, this is the age where they're learning about their capabilities and their competencies. Okay? So environment plays a very big role. The social environment, the emotional environment, the physical environment. If you want your children to be organized, but you keep a messy home, well, that may not happen, because children will do as you do, not as you say. So we have to walk our talk. We have to be a positive role model. We have to put our actions where our words are. And we first have to demonstrate what it is that we want for the children. And our children are never going to be any better than what we are. So you need to be happy with yourself. You have to keep evolving yourself as a parent, as a lifelong learner, right? As an individual, in all the different relationships that you play, because children are watching you. Children are going to pick up what they do. And when it's their turn and their chance in life, they're just going to automatically replay that scene that they've seen in their homes. The same words are going to pop out of their mouth, believe me, that their parents are saying. Okay? So this is one of my favorite lines that I read in Stephen Covey about the concept of the nature metaphor. Sow a thought, we reap an action. When I asked you to write those things down about what you're parenting, what you want for your child, why? When it's a thought, you've put into an action of a goal that you have. You're going to put it somewhere. So sow a thought, you reap an action. There might be more of a propensity for you to maybe do that then, right? Then you sow an action, you reap a habit. Lo and behold, maybe after 6 months, some of those things you wrote down have become a habit for you in your home. Sow a habit, you reap a character. That's what you become, right? When you have these habits on a daily basis, then you become that character. And when you sow a character, you will reap a destiny. That will be what unfolds throughout your lifetime. Okay. Now, any questions so far? Am I understandable? Like, is it going too much information? It's okay? Can I have a thumbs up? Okay, good. So the 3 R's of discipline. We've heard 3 R's of education long back, but these are the 3 R's of discipline that I want to share with you. We have to remember this. I'd like you to take a screenshot of this, because when you're disciplining your child or you're encouraging them to be self-disciplined, remember these 3 R's. It has to be related, it has to be reasonable, and it has to be respectful. Let me just take a... Oops. Okay. I want you to read this cartoon. Okay, any comments on that? How about you, the gentleman who volunteered a little bit earlier ago? What do you think of this cartoon? Do what? Wish the clerk. Okay. Wish the doctor. Wish the doctor. Okay. So here, the effective discipline, it's saying it should fit the behavior. So here, there's 2 children that did a little bit of misdemeanor. One broke a bunch of fancy dishes, and the other one just forgot to say thank you to the clerk at the store. And both of them said you're grounded for a month, meaning they take away one privilege, like no TV or no iPad for 1 month or something like that, right? It's an American term, being grounded, meaning a privilege has been taken away from you. You're grounded for a week or for 3 days or for a month. So do you feel that this is reasonable? Both of them, are they reasonable? Is the discipline of 1 month of being grounded reasonable? Yes or no? No, okay. Is it, let's go back. Is it related to what the child did? Yes or no? Is it related? Being grounded for 1 month, for whether it's for dishes or for, is it related? No? Is it respectful? Taking away a child's privilege for 1 month. Maybe they broke the fancy dishes by mistake, and mistakes can happen by anyone. Is it respectful? Yes or no? The time period is not reasonable. Maybe just that. Maybe for how many days do you think would be reasonable?
Maybe 1 day or 2 days.
Okay, okay.
It's more
For which, the dishes, or for saying, not saying hello to the clerk or thank you to the clerk?
For the dishes, I believe it is for 3 days.
Okay.
And for the clerk, we can say it for the 1 day.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, some of you may agree or disagree, but you all have, yes. Depends on the circumstance. But in each circumstance, this is just an illustration, it has to be related, it has to be reasonable, and it has to be respectful. So I'll give you a quick thing where I think I was trying to make my boys responsible. So my eldest, he was in class 3, and I had just bought him a pair of glasses. And he picked it out and this and that, and he had 2-3 times it happened where he forgot things or he misplaced things, and I let it go. And then one fine day, very soon after we got these glasses, he lost them somewhere on the sports ground or whatever. So I said, okay, you've lost them, but I think now you need to learn on how to replace things that you lose. So I said, you have a lot of Eid money, and I think he had maybe about, I don't know, 8,000 rupees of Eid money collected. I said, why don't you use your Eid money to buy yourself a new pair of glasses? So I didn't pay for the new glasses. I think at that time it was like 1,000 rupees for him to get a new pair of glasses. And he did, but believe me, he's one of my most responsible boys. He is so particular about how he keeps things. He doesn't lose anything. So though it was a little bit of a, do you think that was respectful? I didn't yell at him. I didn't get mad at him. I just said, you know, this has happened a few times. What do you think we can do? Do you think you can just give this because you have some money? And he was okay. He wasn't upset about it, but it taught him to be responsible for his belongings in the future, because he knew that if he lost something again, I may ask him again. Do you think that was related, reasonable, respectful? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, you don't have to agree with me, but that's what I did, and it kind of worked, you know? Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit about encouragement. So the founders of STEP, Systematic Training for Effective Parenting, the quote is from there, that children need encouragement just like a plant needs water. What happens? We're in spring fields, right? It's a very nature kind of connotation. What does anything need to grow? It needs sunlight and it needs water, right? And what happens when you don't water it? It dies, it withers, right? It becomes brown. The life force is kind of like, you know, taken out of it, right? So that's how children are. Think about children as plants. Your Springfield's parents, so these are all like little buds, right, growing in our home gardens and the school garden, and they need constant encouragement, just like a plant needs water. So please remember that. So now I'm going to just talk a little bit about the difference between praise and encouragement. So when I say encouragement, I don't want you to mistake that for praise. Okay? So what is praise? Let's look at this side. Praise teaches children to please other people in order to feel worthwhile. Okay? They become people pleasers. That's not a good thing, because that breeds resentfulness later on in life. Okay? It also teaches them to want more and more praise. They get hooked to getting that validation that validation, oh, meri tareef kare, main aur agar kar di to meri aur tareef ho gayi. Like, you know, they become hooked to that praise, and that's not a good thing because it's feeding the ego. It's feeding that ego identity, and that's also not good in the long run for them. What happens when you praise them, they treat everything as a contest. And in the home, it can become a breeding ground for sibling rivalry, right? If the parent praises one child but not the other one, you know, it disrupts the harmony of the home. And they also will believe that they belong only when they do something right. Okay, and I'm going to talk about belonging and why do children misbehave? And there's a psychology to that, and I'm going to share that in just a little while. Now, what is the difference? Let's shift to encouragement. How is encouragement different from praise? Encouragement teaches children to appreciate their own special qualities, to feel capable, to feel worthwhile just the way they are. Remember, children are an amanat from God, right? We are blessed. Ask somebody who cannot have children or who has lost a child. Ask them how important it is to have a child, right? And to value that child. So sometimes we end up taking our kids for granted. So remember, they are an amanat from God. Encouragement teaches motivation to be confident and build their self-esteem. And it also teaches them cooperation with others and not just blind obedience, right? Cooperation. And what is the benefit of cooperation? Okay, so what's the difference now? Again, it's not that clear, and sometimes people get confused, and that's okay. So let me clarify a little bit more. So praise is a reward, whereas encouragement is a gift. Okay? Here, praise, children have to earn it. But encouragement can be given for all those baby steps that I was talking about. It can be given for all the efforts that the child is putting towards that goal, right? And it can be given for improvements. It can be given for noticing what is special when a child isn't doing well or is trying but making mistakes. It's okay. I see that you're working at it. I understand that fractions are difficult for you, but I see that you're putting in, you know, a half an hour of work every day, or you're studying with the tuition sir or whatever every day, you know? So you notice it, notice and encourage. 3, you use words that notice. And 4, it's helpful most of the times when you do this encouragement. What happens is in praise, you're not using words that notice. You're using words that are judgment, right? Judging words. And it's helpful only when the child needs it, like in a sport or a game. But even then, I would say use it very sparingly. So if you want to know, kind of like in an example at the bottom that I put, say your child is running a race, right? There's a flat race going on. Encouragement is what you're doing during the race. Come on, you can do it. Go, you know, faster. So that's what you're doing during the race. Praise is something that you give only when the race is won or not won. Do you understand the difference? Just think about that race example, okay? That's the difference between praise and encouragement. Courage is an important part of self-esteem, the willingness to make an effort. So an encouraged child is going to have strong self-esteem. The child has the courage to cooperate and to try things new and be responsible. Remember the young parent here, he said to be fearless and to face challenges, to take risks. So an encouraged child is going to have the ability to do that. He's going to have the self-esteem and the courage, right, the himmat to do these things. A discouraged child, what's going to happen? This is going to be the children who are being raised by authoritarian parents. They have very little self-esteem and they're not going to make the effort, right? And this child doesn't have the courage to choose positive ways to belong, Now we're going to look at that psychological concept of belonging. It's a human need that we have. We all have to belong. We have to belong in our families, belong in our classroom, belong in our workplace, in our community, in our extended family. How do we belong? That's really a different. And when children misbehave, it's usually because there's a failure to belong in a positive way. And we're going to cover that in a little bit. So self-esteem is basically a positive belief that we are accepted, that we are capable, that we are strong, and that we are loved. And this is the responsibility of the parent. You have to constantly think about, what did I do today to help my child feel loved, feel capable, feel strong, and feel accepted? Okay? It could be that little hug that you give them right before they go to bed, right? It could be, the mealtime, the conversation that you have during mealtime at dinner. But think about the little ways. So don't underestimate the beauty of small actions. It's really those small things that make huge differences in the long run. Encouragement is a skill to help children grow in self-esteem. Look at the words encourage and discourage. Do you notice anything? Between encourage and discourage, what's something that you notice? Both include the word courage. So again, sir, if you want to make your child fearless, right, and resilient and capable, we need to give them courage, encourage, encourage. Just like a plant needs what? Water. Okay, so the definition of self-esteem, this is by Dr. Don Dinkmeyer, who I got trained under for systematic training for effective parenting. It's called STEP, right? So effective parenting means that, okay, if right now I'm just a so-so parent, I'm 50% effective, 50% I'm not really doing what I need to do, or I'm not happy with how I parent. So learning these things will help you increase your effectiveness. Maybe you'll go from 50% to say 70%. And it's okay, no one is 100%, no one. And if they say they are, I think they're fibbing, right? Because we all make mistakes. We have sometimes the best of intentions, but we're all human, and we make mistakes, and it's okay for even our children to learn that we can acknowledge our mistakes. That's very important, right? We can pick up even if we fail, and we can try again. And that's what makes us stronger, right? And if we make a mistake and we show an apology for it, or we apologize, that's also great. Children learn so much from that as well. Oops, sorry. This is not that important, but hold on one second. Fu and Fin. So this is the mom and the dad and the Fu, the family of origin. So you both come from your own families of origin. You get married, and then you're in the Fin, which is the family that you're in. So there's different qualities that the child can learn from the mother, from the father, from the dadiyal, from the naniyal, and each of them have strengths and each of them have weaknesses, and that's okay, because as human beings we're all filled with our strengths and our weaknesses. But the important thing is that our children should learn from the strengths, right? And sometimes what our husband can do, I cannot do. What I do, my husband cannot do, and that's okay. But we need to recognize the strengths that each family of origin is bringing to the Fin, the family that you're in. And we encourage children from that. Like, for example, I'm a little bit of a scaredy cat. I don't take so many risks, but my husband is a bigger risk taker. He has a lot of courage to take risks. And sometimes with that, I kind of tread in territories that I normally would have shied away from, I'm very meticulous and organized, and I do a lot of things hands-on. So it's okay. One is not good or bad, but we need to focus on what our strengths are. Let's not point out each other's weaknesses, because that's not healthy for the family that you're in, for the child. What are 2 things that I'm doing well as a parent? What is one thing I want to change about the way I deal with my child? And what qualities would I like my child to have? Do you want to take a little bit of a break? 1 minute, and I want you to talk to somebody that you're sitting next to, and maybe you can answer these questions, each of you. 1 minute. Can you put on the timer for one minute? Okay? Now you all talk to each other, and I'm going to have a sip of water. Okay, would anybody like to be brave enough to share what you're doing well as a parent? Who wants to be brave and audacious? Yes, tell me.
Good evening. Now, the first thing, doing well. What are the 2 things I'm doing well as a parent? Like saying the time management, being a working mother, a single mother here as my husband is still abroad. I try to be a good parent for all my 4 children. 2 are daughters working, one is Amazon, one is Google, giving them time. 2 are studying, one is in inter first year and the other is your student here. So there are the age differences and how you cope up as a parent with 4 different ages, 4 different institutes, 4 different child traumas, what they are into. One like something, one like it, and you being a single parent, how you are very much focused to how they are getting the better things in life.
Wow, thank you. Let's give her a big round of applause. You sound like you have a very full plate there.
Yes,
4 kids by yourself with your husband abroad. Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you. Would you like to share anything about challenges and goals at the same time?
Yeah, sure. Like I said, one of my child who has passed from your school, he was very cranky. Shifting from abroad, coming to an Indian school, Indian curriculum, as they were there in a Filipino curriculum. So that was a very, very challenging stage. So how, with motivation, with encouragement, with love, and what now he has topped his 10th, because in India 10th is a bigger havoc than anything else. You can pass graduation easily, but you can't be a 10th pass. So that was his tantrum, and he managed to do it. All these are wonderful teachers who had tamed him, and that was the biggest challenge. I said now he is studying in Akash for his engineering. So that's one of the biggest thing I think.
Very nice. And what qualities would you like your child to have now as he grows older, if you can use the same example of your son?
Sure. I can use that it's like being a parent, first of all. You should have the trust in your child. Motivate them as you trust them. If he does something wrong, don't just be behind it 24/7. You did this blunder, you met with an accident, you failed, you don't go to school, you are this and that. Same goes with both my girls, because they are at a mature stage of 23 and 22. They know the capability, but still, even they sometimes fail your expectations. Sometimes they do. At this age, you are trained to be carried forward with the society norms, with getting carried away. But still, the goal should be perfect. Like when you say, Tawakkaltu ala Allah, you should say, whatever you do, the judge, the inspector, the CCTV camera is all above there. He's the one who is going to judge you.
Yes,
so whatever you do, make sure that you're answerable to him, not to me. You can lie to me, being a mother, I can believe. But The goal is like have a transparent connection with him, not anyone else.
Very nice. Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, so let me go on. I still have a number of slides before the azan. I want to just get finished with the presentation. This is another psychologist that I use a lot in my work when I'm training teachers and adults, is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And why this is important is that I want to understand that this is the basic kind of universally, no matter what strata you're in, what ethnicity or race you are, which country you live in, universally these are human needs that we all have. So the first one is biological, physical. That's like your basic roti, kapra, makan that you need to have in order to just survive. It's your basic physiological and survival needs. After that is your sense of safety, right? And then comes this, so your children, I mean, parents, we give them the roti, kapra, makan, right? According to our, a financial status or whatever it is. Everybody's, they have a roof over their head, they have clothes on their back and food on the table. That all parents do, not a problem. Poor children, that is an issue, right? They don't have it, kids growing up in poverty. Safety. Now, it's the physical safety. How secure do you feel, right? But it's not just physical safety. It's also emotional safety. It's also the psychological safety. Is it safe? Like, for example, the lady, your name is? Sophia, okay? So Miss Sophia just shared that she's a single mom. Do the children feel safe? If they made a mistake, can they come to you and confess that they've made a mistake and that you're going to be there to kind of, acknowledge it and then move past that mistake? Or are they going to be scared? So it's not just physical safety of them being safe in the home, but it's also emotional safety to make a mistake, to be able to come to you and share that, you know what, my friends, they took me out and I didn't want to be there and I ended up in some place, whatever it is. But then I realized that you were right and I came back and I don't want to do that again. I'm not, whatever, friends with that person anymore. For example, these things happen, right? It's all a part of growing up. Then it's your feeling of love and belonging, and I think we talked a lot about that, at how at the different ages and stages of development, you have to make them feel that they are loved and belong. And when they don't feel that they belong positively, that is the root of misbehavior. And that's why I'm sharing this Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Most of the indiscipline or the unruly behavior happens because they are not feeling loved and they do not feel that they can belong positively. Therefore, they take on negative ways of trying to belong in their family. Then, of course, we talked about self-esteem. After love and belonging is their sense of self-esteem. And then comes the school with their intellectual needs. So all these needs are really there as a foundation of the home. And if any of them have loose foundation or loose pillars, then this is going to suffer. The intellectual need of them to succeed at school is going to suffer. So really, parents, you are setting that foundation. So now let's take a look at what belongingness means and what happens. So can you see this cartoon? The parent is on the phone. This is an old cartoon because it's attached to a phone with a wire. Do you remember that? Anybody old enough to remember that? Those phones? So the child is, balancing a chair with something else, a flower pot on his head. And he's saying, look, Dad, when the dad is obviously busy on the phone. So what is that goal of attention? The child is perhaps not being paid attention to normally. So when the parent gets busy, they do some mischief, like this boy is doing. And what is the goal? The child wants attention. He can't get the parent's attention, so he's doing something, mischievous to get the parent's attention. At least then my dad is going to look at me. At least then my mom is going to pay attention to me because I don't exist. They're busy, right? So when they do things like that, think about what you're not doing. Maybe you're not giving them positive attention. And that's why they're into mischief. What is the goal of power? Okay, so this cartoon, they're at a checkout counter with the cashier, and the parent is perhaps putting the bag of chips away, and that child throws a tantrum. No, I want it, and they're making a big scene and a big ruckus. Other people are looking at them, right? What's happening? The child is not feeling a sense of agency or choice or power. And when they're vulnerable, like when they're around other people, they might want to exert their power and say, no, I want this, because they're not being given that choice later on. Again, a lot of times this happens with authoritarian parents. Okay, that's the goal of power. What is the goal of revenge? When sometimes children misbehave. Here's a girl drawing a picture, a not so flattering picture of her mother and saying, Mom. So a child who wants revenge is going to try to hurt the parent somehow, right? Because they're hurt and they want to feel better by doing a little bit of revenge and hurting the parent back, because they're not feeling like they're positively belonging again. So she's saying, I'm going to teach her to make me stay inside. So maybe that girl was grounded for a month. It was an unreasonable, unrelated, and disrespectful punishment, and then she's going to take it out with this revenge. I mean, these are just examples for illustration purposes. Now, the fourth goal of a misbehavior is the goal of inadequacy, okay, of displaying inadequacy. So here the mom is obviously a grown child, but she's tying the shoes. And she's saying, oh, it's hopeless. She'll never learn to tie her shoes. So children who display inadequacy have given up, and often their parents have too. So when the parents have psychologically just given up, ke, oh, ye bachche se nahi hota, then that child will exhibit more of that behavior and want them to have things done for them. Because the parent doesn't believe in the child. There's no belief in the child's ability or capability. Remember all the background that we talked about, how we build up capability, courage, and self-esteem? When they don't get that, they'll show that display of inadequacy. Okay, so children's belief. So the negative goal of attention, what is the faulty belief that the child is having when they do these attention-seeking misbehaviors? I belong only by being noticed, even if it causes problems. That's the faulty belief. Second, the flip side. How do you turn that around? As a parent, if your child is doing these attention-seeking behaviors, the child basically wants involvement. They want to be involved in the family. They want you to involve the child. The positive belief they want to have is that I want to be a part of things. Please help me contribute. Please help me contribute in some way. So when the parent gives them that opportunity to contribute in positive ways, that misbehavior, attention-seeking behavior will go away. Does that make sense? Yes? Okay. Next. Power, the negative goal of power. I belong only by being the boss. If I can get my mom and dad to fight with me, I have power, right? It's like a power struggle, right? You know, bolte na like tu main, like they just have that power. Like, no, you do that. No, I won't do that. Like it's a power struggle. So the flip side is that child is actually craving for independence. They want some independence. And I think somewhere here, the parent said that I want my child to be independent and be able to do things on their own. So that's the goal that the child has. But because they're not being given any independence, they're using that power struggle. So the positive belief, how we can change it, is that I want to be independent. Please give me choices so that I can learn to be responsible. That's really what the child is craving. Those of you who are having these power struggles with your children, that's really what the child is craving for. Please give me choices so I can learn to be responsible. Now, the negative goal of revenge, when the children do something that's very hurtful to the mom or the dad, right? The flip side is they want to be competent, okay? And the faulty belief that they would be having when they display that inadequacy. Did I flip the thing? Revenge, sorry. Revenge. So the faulty belief is that I'm not lovable and I belong only by making mom and dad hurt as I am hurt. Okay? So if they don't feel loved, they're going to be doing those behaviors. And the positive belief that they're craving for, they're thirsting for, is that I want things to be fair. Please help me learn to cooperate. And maybe they're feeling a sense of double standard or unfairness or something in the home, somewhere, somehow. And we have to really be very reflective as parents sometimes. Sometimes we overlook things. And when they want the fairness, and that fairness is not given to them, and a lot of times I see, especially in Muslim homes, they have a lot of unfairness with boys and girls. They give the boys a lot of freedom and they don't give the girls a freedom. So when there's no fairness, then, you know, that vengeful kind of, you know, feelings can actually grow there. The last one is a display of inadequacy. The flip side is that they really want to be competent. They want to be known as competent and capable people, right? So the faulty belief is I belong only by convincing people that I can't do a thing. The positive belief, what we need to reassure that child is that please, he's yearning to say, please help me learn to trust myself to succeed. So there's a basic lack of trust within their own abilities. They don't have any self-efficacy. So that's what the child is experiencing. Okay? Now, one little note about the school. And we're all in a school right now, and we need to acknowledge that their success in school and then later on career, obviously this is a stepping stone in their life, home to school to, you know, higher education and then career. School is a team effort. So the teacher's job is to teach. The child's job is to learn, and they need to know that learning is up to them. The teacher will teach, but the child has to learn, and the parent's job is to help the child be ready and able to learn. sides. But discipline tools, we need to arm our discipline tools, our toolbox with different tools. We can't use the same thing over and over. Obviously, if it's not working, then we need to switch to a different method of dealing with that. And sometimes we end up doing the same thing and then it gets worse and worse. So if the only tool we have in our toolbox is a hammer, then we're going to approach every situation as if it was a nail. And that's not good. So the next is we'll just quickly, these are you messages. This is basically talking down to a child, and it's not effective. So if any of you can think of yourselves saying something like this, then let's see how we can rephrase this. Don't talk to me like that, Batamiz. Can't you see I'm busy? Whenever I'm doing something, you have to interrupt. What is that? The goal of attention, right? If you don't study, what will you do? Be a rickshaw driver? You always want more money. No matter how much I give you, it's not enough. What do you think? That we're made of money? Sarcasm. Why do you always wait until the last minute to finish your project? It's your fault. Now do what you want. I'm not helping you. For the 100th time, will you put your shoes on the stand and your books and bag in your room? You think I'm your servant to pick everything up? So these are the things that a lot of times we say as parents who get frustrated, right? We're working, we're doing a lot of things, we're managing extended family, in-laws, our own aging parents, and then we get really frustrated. But these things are going to end up landing as hurt, and then the hurtful seeds then will sprout into weeds, and we have to make sure that we correct that. Remember, the 3 R's of discipline is related, reasonable, and respectful. Oops, sorry. So what we can do is, instead of using these you messages, we change it into a I message. Like, I feel frustrated when you don't take your bag and books inside your room. Will you please remember to do that? Instead of saying, do you think I'm your servant? And saying a lot of negative things. Just say, I feel. I feel I always have to remind you, and I feel frustrated. Can you please do that? So give them that invitation to cooperate, rather than cutting them off and distancing them by saying a sarcastic remark or a negative remark. So you have to understand what's happening, paraphrase, clarify, reflect, probe. This is like a whole workshop in itself, so I won't be able to go into detail with that. But this is kind of an example of what I'm saying. I think this child basically just made a mess. The key to remember is talk less and act more as a parent. He didn't yell. He just smiled and said, clean up the mess I made. And his friend is like, oh, wow, creepy. That's it? Like, you didn't get in trouble. They're expecting being yelled at or grounded or nothing. Like, the parent, the child made a mess, and the parent just smiled and said, it's okay. You could just clean up the mess you made, and then moved on. And then there was that expectation from the parent that, yes, the child is going to cooperate, and he's going to do the needful, and he's capable of cleaning up that mistake, So sometimes it can actually be pretty easy, but it takes a little bit of time to set that culture within your home. Here's a little bit of examples in the language of encouragement. Words that say, I accept you. It looks like you enjoyed that. You did your best. That's all anyone can do. Okay? Words that say, I know you can, right? Giving them that capability, feeling of capability. You're making progress. That's a tough one, but I think you can work on it. हाँ मुश्किल है मगर लगे रहो, and I think आपको आ जाएगा थोड़ी देर के बाद. Like you say it in your own language. Obviously, a lot of people don't speak this at home, but these are just examples. I need your help fixing this. Inviting children to help you with something. That makes them feel very capable. Words that say, I see that you're working and improving. You're getting better at fractions all the time. Looks like you spent a lot of time thinking that through. Words that say, I appreciate you. Thanks. That was a big help. You know, maybe your son is helping you, you know, clear up the table or whatever. Thank you. That was a really big help. Acknowledging that effort. They need that encouragement and that acknowledgement. So instead of saying, good boy, say, thank you. That really helped me a lot. You know, you saved me some time. I need your help planning the picnic. Okay, so these are just some examples, and then you can just relate it in your own life. The 3 C's of encouragement are children to be capable, connect, and contribute. So children need to feel capable of completing their tasks, achieving their long-term and short-term goals with success. Okay, so if we put down the goals and any effort that they're making towards that goal, please encourage them and think about encourage their capability in doing those baby steps. Connect. Children need to connect and belong within the family, amongst their friends and peers, and in school and in society at large. Contribute. Kids need to feel that they have a substantial contribution to make based on their innate talents, abilities, and potentials. They should be involved in activities, decisions, at home, in school, and in the environment. Remember that an encouraged child is a motivated child. So when the child is encouraged in its environment, in his environment or her environment, they're going to feel that motivation. More and more of that potential is going to be coming out. Oops. Okay, so now this is just a little chart. Again, we can't really go into it because of lack of time. But if you're really having a serious issue at home and you really need to kind of problem solve, this is some tips. Picking out a good time and place to talk. Sometimes when you're in the heat of the moment, it's never a good idea to talk about it right then and there because you might end up saying things or doing things that you would regret. Take time to cool off and say that, okay, dinner ke baad kamre mein aao, baat karenge. You know, or something like that. Or main aungi aapke kamre mein baat karne ke liye and stuff like that. So give a little bit of time. Brainstorm for solutions. Say, you know, aisa hua and, you know, I feel disappointed because I trusted you or something. What is a solution now? Ask them for solutions. It doesn't mean that you have to listen to any solution that they come up with, but put the ball in their court for them to acknowledge. Talk it out and then choose a situation together. When my children were younger and they made a mistake, I was a stickler for getting an apology. And I said, you have to say sorry. Okay, take it, sorry, mom. I said, nope, you have to say sorry for what? And I always made them say, and even my husband, if it's a sorry, you have to say sorry for what? Then I'll accept the sorry. Okay, I'm sorry, mom, for blah, 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 what it is, you know? So I always made them acknowledge that. And that's all I really needed. There was no punishment or anything like that. When the kids were very young, I would, and they did something that they're not supposed to do, like say they're 2 brothers, right? So sometimes they would get into a fight or one would start crying because somebody, you know, one of them did something to the other. I said, you know, you're not supposed to do that. And we believed in the RRC. My kids heard that so much. They're like, okay, mom, no more. RRC, be respectful, be responsible, can you cooperate? So RRC was kind of like our guiding 3 words. So if they were disrespectful, right, and they weren't responsible and following, I said, okay, I want you to take a time out for 5 minutes or whatever it was and think about what you did. Because I really think you can cooperate next time, but I want you to take out time to think about it. So I think from age 5 to maybe 10 or even 12, I think I made them do timeouts. So they knew exactly. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to, okay, you know you're not supposed to do that. Please take a timeout and reflect. And they would have that. So the timeout months, the years of age to the minutes. So if they're 6 years old, 6 minutes. If they're 10 years old, 10 minutes. And then I would just put the timer on and be like, okay. And then after the timeout was over, I would say that, okay, what did you think about in your timeout? And I would have them reflect and, you know, self-regulate and redirect what they're doing. So discipline techniques, I think we're almost done. remember, we need to set limits, but not everything. Don't be an authoritarian parent. Have choices, limits, but choices within those limits. Okay? Consequences. If there is a misbehavior, then there is a consequence of that behavior. Don't call it a punishment. Consequence is a very good use. You know, if you're going to do this, there's going to be consequences, and you can decide what the consequences can be, and that is a direct result of a misbehavior, right? Describe the problem, give information, try to say it sometimes in as less words as possible. Don't be too lectury about it because it just sounds like blah, 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 blah. Talk about your feelings very briefly, and that I message is a good thing. I feel disappointed when I have to remind you not to push your brother, for example. You know, just in one sentence, you can convey the whole thing without sermonizing or lecturing or giving the child a whack yourself, you know, and then obviously you're not being a role model there. If they're older, you can write a note. You can take timeouts, like I mentioned. And I think that's it. So before namaz starts, if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer a couple of quick questions before the prayer time starts, because then I don't want to disturb the masjid. We'll open up the floor if our faculty heads can just circulate the mic. So we covered a lot of things. This is actually like a day-and-a-half workshop where we do, we used to do it at Taj Krishna, and we would have the parents come like Friday afternoon until like 6 o'clock that evening, and the next day all day from like 9 to 5 or 9 to 6. And we would do a whole series of like interactive workshops, communication exercises, and things like that, to guided visualizations, imagining their child, kind of sending that love and, you know, positive messages, you know, to the child in our visualization. So it was a very beautiful workshop. Any questions? Can I have the lights off my face because I won't be able to see the audience? Can we just turn the lights? Yeah, any questions? If not, then I think they can give the vote of thanks and we can conclude. Oh, there's a question back there, all the way in the back. Can we just flip this one? Rukhaya, can you just flip this one, this light? I can't see.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Walaikum assalam.
I have a question on the previous topic, that the differentiation between the praise and encouragement.
Yes.
I personally feel that praise and encouragement, they are the two sides of one coin.
Okay.
When we praise the child, then only they can move forward for the best things.
Okay.
That is my question. Praising in good manner is fine sometimes.
So noticing, instead of painting the whole child with one brush as good or bad, or you got it, you didn't get it, what encouragement is noticing all the specific parts and special qualities and encouraging that detail. Whereas praise is a judgment. It's very similar and it can be a little tricky. And, you know, it's just to give that differentiation, you know, about there can be some ill effects of praise, you know, either to the ego or to become a people pleaser and all that. You know, you don't want children to be doing something because they're getting praised for it. You want them to be able to do it for the sake of itself, for the action. That's the differentiation.
Okay.
I hope that's clear.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other question from anyone? No? Okay. So, oh, go ahead. Oh, wow. We have a... I always get happy to hear from the dads.
Good evening, all. My question is, you have conducted this session for the parents as well as the teachers. So, apart from that, why don't we have this session in the school for the kids also, so that they will learn what they need to be on the basic terms.
Okay, so the school, they are offering a lot of character development and leadership development programs. For example, we have been using for many years the 7 habits of highly effective people, how can they can be proactive, begin with the end in mind, things like that. And then linking what they're learning to, for example, like the UN SDGs. So there's one thing that talks about zero hunger or no poverty, about just how to have empathy and not waste food, for example, not waste food in the school, not waste food at home, to be conscientious that so many people are going hungry. We had, I think, Azhar Makhsusi come, who feeds people right under the Dabalpura bridge for free because he suffered from hunger. So when we engage in these different type of exposures to the children, it is, molding a lot of what they do, what they don't do. Eating is something that you do every day, 3 times a day. But if you can cut out the wastage or become more conscientious, that has an effect, right? So parenting is for parents. They are going to have to grow up and become parents before I do this workshop for them. But they are given other inputs for character development. There's also the Iqra curriculum, right? The Diniyat curriculum. Value education is definitely there. So throughout, whether it's their assemblies, their classes, linking what they're learning to what they can do today as a citizen of the world. And that's the beauty of UN SDGs. So even if, say, something like with gender equality, right? Because there's no differentiation for that. Both are equal. They're not identical, they're not equivocal, but they're equal, right, in terms of worthiness. So those are the things that, the children are, mashallah, learning throughout the school. But if there's anything specific that you have in mind, we would be happy to hear from you. You can talk to the heads about it. Yes, there's a hand over here.
Ma'am, there's namaz going on.
Okay.
We'll just break for
Sure.
5 minutes, please.
Sure. Is that okay? You can come and talk to me individually. I'll be here. Okay? Thank you, everyone. There's some questions I can answer after the namaz. So those of you who are staying, I'll just quickly go through some of the questions that I've been given. If you need to go, that's okay. Yeah. So the question is, my son is kind of shy nature. He doesn't express himself much. Sometimes I have to acknowledge through his actions what's going on. Can you please help me on how I should make him more confident? There's so many things that maybe can be said, but maybe I'll just relate my own experience. I was a very painfully shy girl when I was growing up. I had no confidence. I had no courage. I could have just been like the fly on the wall. Like I felt like I was not really paid attention to because both my parents were working and my mom worked at night in a lab and my father was working during the day. So whenever I went to a social function, I didn't even know on how to go and join a group to play with them. So I think it was a whole bunch of things about, my parents, I think, did the best that they could at that time. But I think when people came and held my hand and took me and encouraged me, started noticing things that I did, maybe things that I didn't even give importance to, I think that slowly built up my confidence, my self-esteem. So basically, like what the workshop was all about, right, on parenting is noticing. Noticing the efforts, noticing the details, and encouraging. And that turned me from a painfully shy girl who just would hold on to her mom's sari kapallo and think 20 times before she even opened her mouth, and most of the time would chicken out, to somebody who's, I guess I'm pretty confident today, right? Or have been for a very long time. So I think give it some time, just keep giving love and encouragement, and it will happen when it happens. How can a working mom cope with a child with her temperament, sometimes due to her own work pressures? Her own work pressures, meaning the child's work pressures, or your own work pressures, I'm not sure. But I think just being human and acknowledging that you're also kind of running a little bit on empty, that I am also feeling really tired, acknowledging your own kind of, energy levels. And if the child is working or the child is being a little frustrated because of their work or school, just empathizing with them. Like, I see that you're feeling very, frustrated as well. So what's bothering you? And then I said, oh, do you want to hear about what's bothering me? It's okay. This too shall pass, right? Like Alam Nashrika Surah, right? With every difficulty comes ease. And then just talk it out and then acknowledge. So I think we don't have to have all the answers all the time. I think sometimes as parents, we should just show our kids that we're human and that we too also sometimes need a little bit. Like I remember my eldest son, I came home and I'm really exhausted from school, and he's like, Mom, come here, let me give you an energy hug, because I had given him an energy hug at some point, and he remembered that, and I think he was maybe 10 years old or something at that time. So like I said, a lot of what you do will come back to you sometimes. I don't want my child to misbehave in any manner. They should be responsible for the duties given in school and home. I don't know if this is a question, but I think if you demonstrate your own responsibility as parents, indirectly the children will learn responsibility of themselves, and just encouraging, because see, maybe they're not responsible 2-3 times, but maybe they're responsible 6-7 times. Are you noticing and giving them that encouragement and watering their efforts of being responsible? Maybe just getting up on time, maybe picking up the plates after dinner. It can be very small things, but the more you acknowledge that they're responsible, the more that will happen. So in this era of fitna where our communities target around the globe. What should I do as a parent to make my child socially responsible and to make my child contribute towards a society and build a strong community? I mean, yeah, that's a really tough one. I mean, I think that a lot of you, when you were answering in the beginning, said that you want your child to be the best in his or her profession. I learned this a long time ago from one of my auntie friends, and she said that we should be a positive ambassador of our faith. So while the world is having Islamophobia and, you know, there's a lot of, you know, nonsense that is being said, we are, what, like such a huge 200 million, or I don't know, what is the population in this country of Muslims? More than 250 million, okay? We have more Muslims in India than we have in Pakistan. We are 1/7 of the global population. So 1 out of 7 people is a Muslim. How many of them are good Muslims? How many of them are good neighbors? How many of them are good citizens? How many of them are good friends? How many of them are good parents? How many of them are good students? How many of them are good professionals with honest integrity, right? Loyalty. So we really need to look within ourselves, and you know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran that He will not change the condition of a people until we change what is within them. So we have to constantly reflect on how we can become a better person ourselves, and you know, encourage the same with our children. And when we show that we are fulfilling all our roles to the best of our ability, then that means one by one we encourage that. Maybe you have 3 children. You've raised 3 children to be socially responsible. Maybe you have an impact with the cousins and your nieces and nephews. You know, you have a family who has these values, right? Like in our family, like, you know, sharafat is a value that was cultivated. Like I made sure my children, I hated the double standard when I came from the US. Larkiyon ko tight marte, boys can do anything that they want. I said, no, my boys have to be equally responsible. I told them, I said, you're never gonna break a girl's heart. You're never gonna get involved with a girl romantically. Unless you want to marry that person, then you let us know. We'll get you married. So, alhamdulillah, they never did that. They always had that respect. They never, you know, did any type of misdemeanor with anybody of the opposite gender. They were very sharif. They were independent. They went away to college. And alhamdulillah, I can say that. And I mean, Allah helped, right? Because we can say what we want, but ultimately Allah has to give that hidayah. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that happen. There's a double standard in society. But what did I do as a parent to make sure that my children or my boys are going to be respectful towards other women, towards other girls? That was my responsibility, right? I couldn't say that, oh, well, that's what boys do. That's how it is here. No. So I took onus in that because that's the standard that I set in our home. So let's move on to the other questions. During leisure time, free time, or in holidays, how to engage children for productive outcomes as children are using technology and are not satisfied with parents' efforts. I would say just off the cuff, you know, just make time for everything. Maybe there can be like a technology half hour where they can all like be on their phones, but then we're like, okay, you know what, around the dinner table, we're gonna do these conversation starters. In my family, like I'm known as the question queen, and I have, bought it on Amazon, all these conversation starters or icebreaker questions. So it'll be a question like, if you could live anywhere in the world aside from this, the country that you're in, which country or city would you want to live in and why? And everybody goes around and answers. So some of them are very light questions. Some of them are a little bit more deeper and more reflective questions. But if we're traveling, we're sitting around a bonfire, I like to say those questions because everybody will then if they have nothing better to do, then just go to their technology, right, for entertainment. Board games are also very nice, that everybody plays Scrabble, they play Chinese checkers, or something very simple that they can do. There's also a lot of card games like shopping, which is kind of fun, and you can have different ages kind of do that. Kids are mobile addicted nowadays. What can we do to stop them from playing games or watching their phones? I think this kind of answers the question that I just said right here. We also have to model that. Unfortunately, as adults, we are also on our phones all the time. We have to show that there are certain times where there's no technology, like technology is not allowed, like on the dinner table. That means you also have to keep your phone away. And so like in our house, like we have a family forum meeting, like not very often, like once in 6 months, but I make sure that everybody puts their phone away for that 1 hour, 1.5 hour that we're talking. And now my kids are like young adults, right? So there can be times where there's no technology, but you also have to participate in that and put away your technology. Parents living with huge joint family, how can we make our kids understand that your parents love you? That is why we limit you and form boundaries. Others, like grandparents, unless uncles, aunts, they're peer pressure and blindly love you, but that is not good for you. Take no and failure gracefully. I think you answered your own question, right? Because aunts, uncles, grandparents can spoil you, but they're not responsible for your outcome ultimately. It's the parent that is. Sometimes when we just pinpoint mistakes of a child, they try to notice the mistake of parents. This is the judging part, right? The pinpoint their mistakes, why this happens, this comes in which category? Well, it's revenge, right? If you're feeling, how does their misbehavior make you feel? Is it making you feel hurt, or are they challenging your authority? So it could be either revenge or power, depending on how they say it and put it to you. And then you have the things about how we can turn it around, right? They need to feel competent, or they need to be shown some independence, given some choices. Maybe you are noticing only their mistakes and you're seeing the glasses half full. Try seeing the glasses half empty. Try noticing their good qualities and see what happens, is what I would say. Oh my God, there's a ton of questions. I don't know if I can get to all of them. Don't all the parents use 3 styles at different times throughout parenting? Yes, sometimes we do switch back and forth. Soon, will it be good? Only 1 style throughout? I can't hear. I can't read. It's a little small. I don't know. Maybe you can pull out some very important ones. I can just answer that one. See, I'm getting old also. I need my glasses. How do you distinguish which child to use for what particular? No, I would say stick with democratic parenting whenever you can. And I would not do laissez-faire unless there's limits that, okay, right now we're on vacation and I'm allowing you to do this. But I think you always have to have limits. And democratic will be firm but friendly. So I think that's my answer to that question. What is the best way I could help children face the transition of moving to India? Yeah, that's a tough one. I've done that myself back in the 90s. I would say, you know, read some version of Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. That book really changed my life. I think it helped me concentrate on my circle of influence and take control. So when I look back, the home environment I created for myself, the school environment I created for myself, that became a reflection of who I was. So it's going to take time. It won't happen overnight, but the more you think it, right, begin with the end in mind, being proactive, putting first things first, all the 7 habits, you implement all those things into your life, and soon your new city will become, you know, a comfortable home for you as well. How can I correct the habit of procrastination in kids? I would say baby steps. Baby steps, breaking tasks down that, okay, you know, for the next half hour, you know, I would say this with my 18-year-old, power half hour, come on, let's get to it, let's get started, you know, and then I would use my timer of my phone all the time. So breaking sometimes things down into baby steps helps the procrastination, because sometimes it just seems like a Herculean task. How to deal with cranky children? My son cries for everything, like brushing his teeth, listening to what elders say. How can I deal with this behavior? I would say notice when he's not cranky and encourage that. And maybe that will grow. And maybe whenever he doesn't cry, I think it's there. It seems like, you know, he's wants some attention, right? And he's resisting. Maybe he needs some choices. Would you like to do this first or do that first, you know? Let's see. If the child gets bullied in school, what is the responsibility of the teacher and how the parent can help him? So, I mean, we do a lot of work with having a bully-free environment at home, and we also make the teachers aware. But these things happen. It's really a part of growing up. We have to just continue exercising RRC, being respectful, responsible, and cooperative, alerting the teacher, and then letting us, you know, the school will then look into what's happening. But instead of that child or the parent taking it into their own hands, it's always better to let the school authorities know. My two daughters are in the school. One is silent in nature and the other is very different. So how can I manage both with the same form of tricks? You really don't. Some things you can do together and some things you have to do a little bit differently. I mean, every child is born with its own fitra, right? That comes from Allah, that temperament. So when we look at psychology, it's between nature and nurture. So some things children have a natural propensity to do or not do, and that's just their nature. And some, you know, have the environment kind of gives them things. And sometimes children change. They're one way when they're a child, they become very different as a teen, and then again, very different as an adult. Some people kind of stay the same. That's okay. You know, I mean, would you like to have the same, like food, say you have a favorite food, the same thing all the time? Variety is good. Variety is fine. So we can cater to that. Yeah. Okay, I think time is, we're beyond time. We were supposed to end at 5, but we had namaz. So I wanted to take some questions. I still have a lot of questions, but I think we need to close.
Now, on behalf of the parents, teacher parents, and the management, I would like to thank Dr. Anjum BabuKhan for being here with us and enlightening us with this beautiful session. I think this was a much needed session for all parents, because in some way or the other, we are lacking behind in something or the other. But Allah Ta'ala has said that we need to make an effort ourselves and pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala daily, and pray for our children that they listen to us, they you know, follow the Sirat al-Mustaqim, the path or the straight path. And dua makes, I feel, your taqwa in the dua makes things possible. So keep praying, keep trying, and as ma'am said, you have to be the best examples as parents if you want your children to be you know, good in behavior, discipline, or in any field, you have to be the best examples. How sincere you are, how confident you are, how you encourage, how you praise makes a lot of difference. Many things are there, as she said, nobody is perfect, we make mistakes, we get angry as parents, and sometimes we shout at our children. But when we realize at least that we have done something wrong, okay, we shouldn't have shouted at them in front of somebody, or, you know, you should not have shown your temper there. Take out time to, you know, just hold his hands and say, okay, I have done something wrong. I shouldn't have done this. I'm sorry, but I was hurt because of your behavior. So try to do that, then they realize that it's human, that sometimes they can also commit mistakes, but they will be free to come and talk to you, at least come open up with you and see that, you know, they are pushed or, you know, motivated by their parents how to overcome their challenges. So thank you once again, and thank you, Anjum ma'am, for being here with us. It was a lovely session. A huge round of applause, and thank you for the time. As she said, the time is up and we have a few more questions, but do feel free to come to us when we are there in school. As heads, we will also take up these questions, and we can also have a discussion on these if you have still few questions which have been unanswered. Thank you once again, and Jazakallah for coming and giving your time here, and thank you, ma'am, for the wonderful session. I thank our admin team for the organization, and all our teachers also who have worked helped us today. Especially the admin team who has worked day in and out. It was a very short time, but Alhamdulillah, we have made this possible. And inshallah, we will see that many more things like this come up in the years ahead. Thank you so much.